There are 4 key movements that we'd like to have in our swing. This is going to allow us to be efficient and powerful, give us the greatest amount of adjustability. And also, when looking at the swing, besides these 4 key movements, we want to get this overall feeling of creating a stretch. Stretch with our body, so when we say now, we want to fire the bat, it will come. So let's take a look at Jenny, and Jenny Finch. Believe it or not, I like to use her as one of my hitting models. She does have an awesome swing. And point out those 4 key movements I was telling about earlier. First one is we want to load our body with leverage. Simply that means if I was to draw a line from the back of her head to the outside of her back foot, this would be about a 75 to a 79 degree angle. Of course, we're in the batter's box and we don't have a protractor with us, so a simple way to figure that out is if you were to come up to a player, get in front of them, and if you could push them over, then they didn't have a good leverage angle. Again, we want to be able to have something to push off or push against. If we get straight up and down, in this fashion, with let's say having our knee and our torso, again, we don't create that angle of leverage. The reason that is so important, it allows us to do the second key movement, which is the main power movement, and that is actually pushing off the back side. And what I'm going to do here with Jenny, I'm going to draw a couple lines. Here's the front of her body, I'm drawing her hips, and here's her torso. So, her body has a nice good leverage angle, and that allows her to do the second movement, which is pushing off the back side. This is where the weight transfer occurs. This is when I like to say the stretch is really beginning to happen with her body. Also note that her back side is really activated and things are getting forward this way. And notice how the back knee almost feels like it's pushing the front foot down. Now this is very important that this pushing is occurring before the front foot is down. Often a player will just step and then the back knee will come in, or they'll step and then everything ends up being locked together and rotating at once. We want the hips to be able to be unlocked. So we really need to get off this back side in this fashion. Also notice as she's moving, she's keeping her torso stacked and her hips level. So now here we get this back knee, so now boom, now we're down. And a lot of times people will call this heel plant. And some of the terminology that a lot of hitting instructors, hitting people use. So when she gets up on her back foot, this would be the negative move, this is the positive move, and now we're into heel plant. And what I like to say, she's created a really nice stretch. Note how she's, again, kept her body nice, and what I like to say, stacked. Her torso is still upright, her hips still are level, her spine remain neutral and perpendicular to her hips. Now, so we've loaded the body with leverage, had a good leverage angle, pressed or pushed off the back side to get in our nice stretch position. And this leads us to the third key point that we really want to look at where the body parts are. And in addition to keeping this torso nice and stacked, which we talked about before, what is hugely important is she has her bat, elbow, and hand relatively stacked as well. What this is going to allow her to do is get this bat into the zone very quickly and allow it to be in the hitting zone for a very long period of time. So this bat needs to be stacked in this fashion at this point in time. Elbow needs to be underneath the hand and the bat up in this area. And we also want to have our elbow and our hands relatively level as well. Now when she decides to swing, she's created a really nice stretch. Her knees are inside her feet. And in fact, when you look at this, it feels like if she was on the change-up, she could just kind of swing those legs a little bit and make something happen. But her hands are back, stretched. Now it's ready to fire. And please note how her elbow is still trying to maintain a position underneath the hands. What's hugely important here is we want this angle between the upper arm, the bicep, elbow, and the hand. We want to keep that pinched as long as possible. And keeping this elbow underneath those hands. And you can see how quickly she was able to get the bat into the hitting zone. And then how long it's able to stay into the hitting zone. But this will cannot really happen as quickly and efficiently as we want if in this heel plant position she doesn't have the stacking going on here with the bat, elbow, and hand. The stacking going on with her torso. And then having her hand and elbow in this fashion as well. Again, we want to have a good low leverage angle. Press or push off the back side into heel plant. And then at this position, everything is nice and stacked. Also note, there's no more forward movement. Once we get down into heel plant, there's no more forward movement. Everything is stretched, ready to be fired. I like to say whipped into the ball. And also notice, when she got her backside, power comes from the ground. And for females, it's extremely important that we have a combination of movements working together, being nice and fluid. Again, we're stronger from the waist on down, and so we want to maximize what our body would like to do. Where a male is stronger from the waist on up, and he could just kind of sit there and jam the elbow against the side and turn super hard and get some power that way. Yeah, females can do that, but again, we want to maximize the way our body works. And so we want to tap into that power, because again, it comes from the ground. And I want you to notice how everything tends to be funneled, pushed up through the body. Again, you can see there was no more forward movement. We've stretched, we're stacked, and now we're ready to fire. And this leads us to the the fourth key position, and that is locking out at contact. We want to have this lead leg as straight as possible, and this lead arm as straight as possible. Wherever we have bent joints in our lead arm or lead leg, that's going to be absorbing energy. You think when you have a butt, you have your arms bent, your legs bent, you bend over at your waist, and we don't want the ball to be coming off really hard when we bunt. We want it to be coming off, 10 miles an hour kind of softly. So we use our body as an energy absorber, as an energy sponge. Well, of course, we don't want that to happen when we swing. We want all of our energy to be going into the ball. Now the backside, we would like to have bending there. That does indicate that we had a nice, good, efficient energy transfer. Meaning that we started with the energy from the back, shifted it to the front, and allowed everything to be released into the ball. And then you can get the good extension coming through. Over here on the right hand side we have Chen Yi. She starts with the more major league type of handset with that back elbow up, kneel down, but notice again how she's pushing her body out. It's just not stepping, she's going to be pushing out, creating a stretch, the torso's being moved. And then notice that heel plant, same thing. Got the stacking going on here. And this is relatively straight as well. What I really want you to notice with Jen Yi's at that, how much energy she gets from the ground. She really taps in. Everything's funneling up. Boom. I like to call this kicking. Jenny is about 5'6", batted around .570, had 30 home runs, struck out maybe 12 times, playing for Georgia Tech. She was on the Canadian Olympic team. So again, she has the major league, high-level major league handset with that back elbow. I like to call it a little tip it and rip it. You can really see how her hands are going to be the pivot point of the swing. Her remaining tremendous whip, that's what we want. And pushing off that backside, just not stepping, pushing off, creating a stretch, has her body nice and stacked, and allowing that energy to completely be tapped into the ground, funneled up her body, held in her hands, and then released. Also note, in addition to creating a good leverage angle, here we want to have a good leverage angle when we create that heel plan as well. So we're working, pushing off, and then actually pushing against. I'm going to bring up a photo here of Jessica Mendoza. And you can see her pushing off this back side. Now she, again, when we're doing our stretching, we want everything to be going north and south. With her, you can really see how the hands pretty much just stay stationary. There's no twisting. There's no pushing back. It's almost a pushing away from the hands. You can see the tremendous stretch she creates here. Again, how she's got this stacking going on. And what she really shows is she's coming underneath this angle right here, keeping this elbow underneath the hand as much as possible. And how this back shoulder is working underneath as well. Super bat light. Boom. So again, we do not swing with level shoulders. We do it from the stack line, but then again, we need to get this underneath so we can get this bat nice and flat and allow it to be whipping. We'll go back here to Jenny as well. You can see, again, it's the shoulders working underneath that allows this bat to get into a good bat leg position. If she was to swing with level shoulders, and we're going back to Jessica, this bat would stay, would get into this type of alignment, and this back elbow would be outside of her hand and would be a cushion type. Okay, so I hope this was helpful, and just a reminder again on some of those movements that we'd like to do. And I'm going to just show you one more again with Miss Jenny. You can really be able to see how this back elbow doesn't get stuck outside the body, how it needs to be free to come underneath. Clear this tremendous pinching that she has going on in this area. Here's the bat. That allows those hands to stand aligned. You can see how she's off that backside, getting ready to kick. Boom. And again, how the shoulders work underneath. Now we talk about the flares. Again, we always want our hands to stay on this line. Stay on the line. You see how her hands stay on that line the entire time. But this back elbow needs to stay underneath the hand for as long as possible, and to work underneath, and to be free and clear to get across the midsection. Again, not being jammed behind the body. You can see how her shoulders, there's no twisting. Everything is going north and south. Alright, so again, load with leverage. We'll flip Miss Jenny back around. Load with leverage. Press or push off that back side. Get everything nice and stacked. Torso, elbow, back, and hand. Now that energy is allowed to just continue to flow up from the ground, up the legs, into the body. At contact, we want things on the front side to be as locked out as much as possible, so no energy is going back into our body. And there you go.